When she runs away, she's not scared. When she hides her face, she's not shy. When she looks into my eyes and says she loves me, it's no lie. When she's feeling blue.
Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. You've read the title, and I'm excited. In this episode, I finally get into the Native Instruments Maschine ecosystem. This episode is heavily indexed, and here's what I'm going to cover. Number one, a little bit of important history. Number two, why I purchased these two units. Number three, how much I pay. Number four, tips and the pitfalls of buying something like this used. And it's a must know. Number five, how I'm going to integrate them into my workflow. Number six, what I've already done with some demos to show you. Number seven, my future plans. And number eight, a suggestion for Native Instruments. Plus, I'll cover a lot of other related information. If you've always wondered how a device like this might fit into your workflow as an orchestral, pop, dance, composer / musician / producer, this will be for you. If you're already using Maschine, this won't be worth your time, so just leave this video now and save yourself some time. It's not a how-to, it's more of a why. I looked at Maschine in 2009 when it first came out, but I need to take you back a little bit so you understand where I'm coming from. I purchased a Roland HPD 15 circa the early 2000s, hoping to use it as a percussion controller for production, but it never panned out for me. It's a great unit and I had a lot of fun finger drumming on it. I sold it and purchased a Roland MC808, another great instrument, but I only used it on one song, and it's the song you heard at the beginning of this episode. You'll also hear some more of it at the end if you're interested. I sold the MC808 circa 2012 and looked again at Maschine when the Mark II came out. I was close to buying it, I mean really close. Credit card in hand, asking how much is it with tax? Oh my gosh. The retail on this device was $669, and that stopped me. I haven't had a drum machine or a drum controller in my studio for the past 14 years. I've been programming drums and percussion sounds from my keyboards. As of a few days ago, that has changed. So why did I purchase these two units? It was a little bit of an impulse buy, I'll admit that, but it has panned out to be an amazing deal and a solid purchase. I was simply hoping to use these units to remotely control VST and hardware instruments, and it's already exceeded all of those expectations. It's incredibly easy to use and robust. Plus, the pop, dance, and other applications are blowing my mind because I work with all kinds of music. So how much did I pay? Here's the 2-minute story. I was browsing Facebook Marketplace hoping to find a Jupiter 8 for 10 bucks when I saw a Maschine Mark I listed for $70. I did a little Googling to refresh my knowledge of its capabilities and confirm that it would work well as a controller. Also, it was listed at 1/10 of the price of the Mark II I considered buying back in 2012. I told myself I really didn't need it, but I sent a message to the seller. I said I would be happy to pay $40. I wasn't trying to lowball him. I just really didn't care if I got it or not. To my surprise, he said yes, and a few days later I was looking at it in his garage, sitting atop a Maschine box. I paid him $40, hoping it wasn't a $40 paperweight because there was no way for me to test it. He didn't give me the box, but he did give me the manual and the installation disc, and I think it's for Windows XP. But that's not a problem. I have Windows 11, but Windows XP, 7, all that older stuff, starting I think with XP, is all 32-bit, and it runs in a compatibility wrapper inside Windows, and usually there's no problems. So here's the story. So I asked him, do I get the box? Because he wasn't giving me the box. And he said, well, this box doesn't go with that unit. And I said, oh, it doesn't. And he said, no, there's a Mark II inside. I go, oh, a Mark II? Well, it's got to be better than my Mark I. And I said, well, is that for sale? And he said, well, I hadn't really thought about it. I said, well, you know, you've got my number. Text me if you're interested in selling it. And so he said, are you interested? I said, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, you got cash? I said, yeah. He said, $40. So I walked away with a Mark I and a Mark II for the total of $80. And I think that's a really good deal. Both look brand new. The Mark II was still wrapped in the plastic in the box with the manual and installation disc. Here are the tips and important information on buying Maschine and other NI products used, and this applies to a lot of other companies and their products. I got the units home and plugged the Mark I into my computer using a USB cable. It flashed but would not turn on. So here's how it all goes. I unplug it and plug in the Mark II. The Mark II turns on, but it's kind of grayed out. It says, activate the software or run it in MIDI mode, MIDI controller mode. So I said, well, I want to use it in MIDI controller mode. So that's what I did, plugged in some MIDI cables, and it would send MIDI information. Then it was kind of getting late in the day, so what I decided to do was wait until the next day. The next day I installed the software for the Mark I that the seller gave me. And to my surprise, the device came alive. I double-clicked on Maschine in my PC, because remember, I hadn't actually used one of these ever before. And everything came to life, but it gave me three choices. Choice number one was you get to use it in demo mode for 30 minutes. And then it just stops and you can close it and restart it, and then you're working inside it again. I don't know if it stops you from saving. Some programs are like that. I wasn't really saving anything, so it really didn't matter to me to test that out. Option number two was to buy the software, and option number three was to enter a serial number. So I flipped the unit over, and the serial number is on the back of the Maschine. I typed that in, and it said it was already registered to somebody else. Then I got online at NI's website, and I checked it out, and they do allow you to transfer licenses on some of their software, not all of it, but on Maschine, yes. So I contacted the seller and I said, I can't use it unless you transfer the licenses. He said, okay, I'll get to it. He texted me back later that day and said, I've done it. They say it's going to take a couple of days. That was Saturday, and I think it's all automatic when you're doing that, but then they have to have a person review it. And Monday he sent me an email, and in there was a code and a link. I copied the code, clicked on the link, pasted in the code, pressed enter, and it transferred all the licenses to me. Then all I had to do was go into the native Instruments Access Portal, which you use to authorize software, including other software I have, like from Spitfire Audio and Damage and all that kind of stuff. And it said I had 6 or 7 new items waiting for download and installation. Installed them, no more nag screen, everything's working. And I was so happy about that, because I thought maybe I've got $80 in paperweights here. I could use them. I could at least use the Mark II in the MIDI mode, and maybe I could have switched the Mark I into MIDI mode too. But this way I get access to everything. And so it was really cool. And you need to be aware of that if you buy one of these units used. The seller needs to transfer the licenses to you. Now, here's some additional information. I wouldn't buy one of these units from somebody on Reverb or eBay if they have no feedback points, or they haven't been on those sites for very long. The unit could be stolen, and if it is, you're never going to get the licenses for them. So that's a problem. If you buy it at a thrift store or a pawn store, you may not be able to activate it. So that could be a problem. Now, you can contact NI and say, I can't contact the seller. But my guess is they probably send a message to the seller at their last known address, or text them and say, was this stolen for you? Is it okay to transfer over the license? And if they say, yeah, I donated it to Goodwill, then that's going to be cool. But otherwise, it could be a problem. So I think that's some very important information for you to know. Just be aware of that. Next, how am I going to integrate these two items into my workflow? And mostly, I think I'm going to be using the Mark II. The Maschine software is very cool. There is a pattern-based sequencer that I learned very quickly, and I have enough basic knowledge of how to use it, but I have Cubase and Maschine loads as a VST instrument into my DAW. It'll probably load into Logic and Reaper and Pro Tools, and you should check that out if you're interested in possibly adding one of these controllers to your setup. It can also be assigned to tracks in Cubase as a controller, and I've already created templates to control some of my most often used virtual instruments. To create those templates, Native Instruments includes a software app called Controller Editor. I'm guessing it's one of the apps that was transferred to me by the previous owner as part of Maschine. It's very basic, but it gets the job done, and so it's easy to use. I found a 10-minute video tutorial on YouTube and knocked out my first template for addictive drums 20 minutes later. It's very basic, and you probably don't even need the tutorial. Though there are certainly some things the tutorial didn't include, and perhaps I'll make my own tutorial someday because I'm very experienced with MIDI and CC data for controlling devices and VSTs. Here's what I've already done with some demos to show you. It's important to say that most mainstream music companies consistently follow a MIDI note assignment scheme for their products, which is good to have. I set up a controller template for the Abbey Road Modern Drummer library that came with NI Complete. And it works well with a lot of the other percussion libraries in Complete, like Studio Drummer, 60s Drummer, 70s Drummer, 80s Drummer, you get it, and others. You may have to make a few tweaks, but it shouldn't take you long. There are usually more than 16 sounds for you to assign, but they have groups, and you get 8 groups, A through H. So you can switch between those groups, and that gives you essentially 16 pads in all of those 8 groups. So essentially 128 pads with 16 accessible at a time. Just start by putting the basic sounds on the 16 pads in Group A and you'll be fine. That's what I've done, and I can expand from there. I also made a few templates for controlling other sample libraries like orchestral instruments, choirs, and hardware synths. A few years ago, I toyed with the idea of buying a Korg NanoPad 1 or NanoPad 2. Those are great little controllers. It's a USB 16-pad controller, and I could have plugged it into my Kronos directly. But Maschine is a lot more sophisticated and versatile. If you have the space, you might want to consider it. And I paid a lot less. I think the NanoPad 2 is like $80 new. I went a little crazy making templates the first couple of days because I'm good with MIDI and I wanted to see what the possibilities are with templates. And really the sky's the limit. It's very flexible. I use the sliders, knobs, and buttons in the controller area of my Kronos when composing, especially for the 3 primary pitched orchestral sections. If you don't have a controller to send MIDI CC, Maschine has 9 rotary controllers, 39 buttons, and 128 pads when used with the group buttons. And I should say those 9 rotary controllers are continuous controllers. That's more than enough controls for most VST instruments. Many people use sliders for Vib and dynamics when composing orchestral music in a DAW, but knobs work too. My future plans are simple. I'm primarily going to use the hardware for playing percussion into my DAW. When I'm working in the pop, country, dance realms, I'll see where it takes me. I think I will get a lot of use out of its pattern-based sequencer. I may use it as a scratch pad, and I've worked with pattern-based sequencers before, like Roland's System 553 for their 80s 12-bit samplers. I know I'm going to get a lot of use out of it, regardless. It's been a while since I've purchased any music hardware, and I'm really excited about it. One last thing. You may know that Native Instruments has solvency problems, meaning they are financially unstable. I've ragged on them in the past about derivative content and about the upgrade path on Complete being too expensive. At the same time, I've also said that I think the initial purchase of Complete is a great value and that Contact is the best sample wrapper on the market. I'm also going to tell you now, I think Maschine is awesome, especially for the price I paid, and I see lots of units on Reverb and eBay. As long as you follow the advice I gave you earlier about license transfers and all that kind of stuff. I think Native Instruments will survive their financial issues, and I truly hope they do. Just like Alesis, and perhaps even more so, they have some great tools that really benefit us as musicians. I also have an idea to help them make some quick cash. How about a one-time offer to owners of Complete to upgrade to the latest version of Complete for $99? I'll be the first in line, and I'll also be the first to say that's very self-serving. But get everyone on the same version, or at least give them the opportunity. Thanks for stopping by the channel. I'll see you in another episode soon. Take care.
She's my heart.